next edition of our PHP training. Today our video will be very quick and snappy because this tutorial doesn't take long, or this session. Today we'll be discussing about PHP Constant, and it's very similar to PHP variables. So if you've not watched the PHP variables tutorials, please kindly do so that you can get more understanding about today's tutorial. Okay, so let's try to begin with a simple introduction or simple brief information about PHP Constant. So when we talk of PHP Constant, they are names. PHP Constant are names, or a name or names. Let me take a name or an identifier that cannot be changed. So they cannot be changed during the execution of our script or our PHP program. So unlike the PHP variables that can be changed during the program, PHP constants are not changed during the execution of our program. Okay, so PHP is very similar to our variable. It also holds information. It stores information inside itself. So in PHP, to declare a constant, we use two ways or two methods to define a constant. We can use the keyword define like this, so the define function, or we can use the constant, that's the const keyword, to define a constant. So after defining a constant, let's try to use the define function to declare a constant. So using the define, it takes up 3 parameters. So we use the define like this, define, then it takes up 3 parameters. That is the name, comma, followed by the value that you want to store inside, and the third one is the case sensitive or the case insensitive. Like this. Okay, so let's try to explain each of the parameters inside this define function. So let's begin with the name. So the name specifies the constant's name or the constant name. The name specifies the constant name, and then the value, which is this one, also specifies the constant value or the information that you want to put inside the constant. And the last one is the case insensitivity. So the case insensitive tries to explain the case sensitiveness. So by default, it's false by default. So by default, this case sensitive is set to false, so you can change it to true. So let's try to take an example of the case sensitive. So I have this kind of information or series of characters, and I have also this also. So when the case sensitive is turned out to be false, this hello is different from this hello. So when it's false, this hello is different from this hello. But when it's set to true, this hello and this hello are the same. So when it's set to true and I set my name, the constant name, to hello, and I call it by using the lowercase, it will still give me the information that I want. Okay, so let's move to how our naming of PHP constant, how we can name them. Is very similar to the one of creating a variables. So we know that in variable creating we can start with an underscore or numbers starting from A to Z, followed by anything like a number 0 to 9, and it can be of any length, being it a single character or a multi characters. But it cannot start with a special character or a number. So unlike PHP variables, that when we are creating a variable we begin with this dollar sign, we don't do that in creating a constant. That's naming a constant. We don't do this. So we just use the define. Then let's try to use a real value. So the name could be something like, let's set the name to something like maybe greetings, like this. Then let's give it a value. Let's try to give it a value. So the value will be maybe hello, maybe you are welcome, like this. So this is the name. The first one is the name, and then the second one is the value that we are storing it inside this name. And then when we can leave it like this, when we leave it like this, meaning the case sensitive is set to false. The case sensitive is set to false, but when you want to set it to true, we bring the comma, then we set it to true, like this. So let's try to let's try to practice this in a raw PHP codes and see the outcome of the case sensitive and then the others. So I would like to start my example. So I will look for my example, control panel. Then I will start my Apache. For now I need only the Apache, just like this. Okay, so I'll minimize it. Then I'll create a new file. So new file, control, and then I'll try to save it. So save. Then we already know that we save our PHP document inside the exam folder. Then we will look for htdocs. Then we know we have a particular folder, PHP tutorials. So I'll save this as constant.php, like this. Then I'll save it. So I'll begin to write my PHP codes here. So in between this less than question mark PHP, then question mark greater than, this is where I'll type my PHP codes. So let's try to declare or define a constant. So we find out from earlier that we can use the define to define a constant. So let's first use the define. So define like this. Then as we said, the name will be greetings. The name will be greetings. The name will be greetings. So let's try to set our value to hello, you are welcome. So the value is hello, comma, you are welcome. Just like this. Then let's leave it, and always remember to bring the semicolon to avoid errors. Okay, so we've set our, or we've defined our constant. So whenever we want to call or display the value that we've set for the constant, we can use the echo. Then, unlike PHP variables, that instead you have to bring the $sign, then the name. With PHP constant, you can just simply bring the name as greetings, and there you go. You can display our information as simple as that. Okay, so let's try to run it inside a browser. Let's try to open it inside a browser. Okay, let me minimize it and open my browser. Okay, so you start by typing in localhost. Then I have my tutorials. I don't know if that is true, but let me quickly go back and check. So XAMPP folder, htdocs, then okay, so PHP tutorials rather, and I can still open it from here. So PHP tutorials, not, so I'll take off from file to htdocs and I'll replace it with local host. Then okay, I think I haven't saved my work. Okay, so refresh, then there you go. You can see that I have hello, you are welcome as the information being displayed. So let's try to check the case sensitiveness. So by default it's false. So let me try to change this G to the uppercase type, and let me save it and then refresh my browser to see. So you can see that I have an error popping up saying use of undefined constant greetings. So because the case sensitive is turned out to be false, we have this error throwing to us. So now let's try to set it to true, like this. Then let's save it again and then refresh. So you can see that we have hello, you are welcome, meaning either being in the lowercase or the uppercase, it still picks the information, or it tries to display the information to us. So that's the use of the define function. So let's move to the next way that we can define a constant, by using the const or the constant keyword. So let me move to the next one. Then so we can use that by using the constant, the const. Then you set, oh sorry, okay, like this. So the constant, then the name of the constant that you want to create, the name of the constant that you want to create. So assuming I want to create a constant called let's say gender, like this. Then you assign the value to it, saying, let's say for example female, like this. Then a semicolon, just like this. So we can also call this function by using the keyword echo, then gender, like this, gender, then semicolon. So with this script that we've written, we've seen, let me take this one off so that we can see the second one only. So I'll save it, then refresh, so you can see that I have female being displayed for me. So that's the use of the const or the constant keyword. So let's try to look at the difference. This const is a little bit faster than the defined function, and the constant or the constant keyword is always case sensitive, unlike the defined function that you can set it to true or false. But this constant keyword is always case sensitive. This means it's always set to false. So that's the little bit difference or between the constant keyword and then the defined function. That will be all for today. Thank you for viewing these tutorials, and if you have any question you can ask. I will drop my number at the latter part of the video, so that if you have any question you can send me the message through WhatsApp, and I'll be glad to answer those information or those questions for you. Thank you, and see you next time.